Have you ever just looked at a big pile of numbers and felt completely lost? Well, today, we're going to grab our detective hats and magnifying glasses because we are going to uncover the hidden stories that numbers are just dying to tell. So, every good mystery starts with a scene. And our first case begins with this: a mysterious collection of raw data.
Okay, take a look at this. It's a list of test scores. Right now, it's just a jumble of numbers, isn't it? It feels chaotic, totally random. There's no obvious story here. Or is there?
So what's the story here? Yeah, it's pretty much impossible to tell, right? And that is the very first challenge that every single data detective runs into. How do you cut through all that noise to find a signal that actually means something?
All right, let's crack open our toolkit. The very first tool we're going to pull out, the frequency distribution table. This is where we start to tame that chaos and bring some real order to our investigation.
You can think of this table as our clue sorter. It takes that big, messy pile of data and just neatly organizes it. It shows us exactly how many times each number, each clue, actually appears. It's the first real step in cracking the case.
And look at that. The exact same numbers, but now that we've organized them a little, a pattern starts to pop out. We can instantly see that the score of 10 shows up the most. See? The fog is already starting to lift. The story is taking shape.
Now that simple table is fantastic for a small set of clues like the one we just had. But what happens when the case gets bigger? I mean, what if we have hundreds, maybe even thousands of data points? That's when we need to get a little smarter and start grouping our clues into what we call class intervals.
So instead of looking at every single number one by one, we group them into buckets or ranges. You know, like all the scores from 10 to 20, then 20 to 30, and so on. This makes even massive data sets way more manageable and lets us see the bigger picture.
Okay, organizing is one thing, but now let's actually bring our data to life. Our next tool is all about visualizing the patterns, because let's be honest, a picture really is worth 1,000 numbers.
Now this is where things get really powerful. Look, the table on the left, it gives us the organized facts. It tells us, yep, 750 students scored between 76 and 100. But the histogram on the right, it shows us the story. I mean, in a single glance, you see that big mountain right there in the middle? That's where most people landed. That's the awesome power of visualization.
Let's zoom in on this tool for a second. The histogram is like our trusty magnifying glass. It lets us see the shape of our data. Is it one big mountain, or are there a couple of peaks? It shows us the center, where most of the clues are all clustered together. And it reveals the spread, how far out our data goes. Each bar's height is basically screaming, how many? And its width is that bucket size we decided on earlier.
Okay, quick but super important point here. Do not mistake a histogram for its cousin, the bar chart. I know they look alike, but there's a really key difference. See how the histogram bars are all cozy? They touch. That's because they're showing a continuous range, like test scores or height. Bar charts have those gaps because they're comparing totally separate things, like sales of apples versus cars versus houses. It's a small detail, but it makes all the difference in the world.
And another fantastic tool in our visual kit is the frequency polygon. Just imagine taking the very top center point of each bar in our histogram and then just connecting the dots. That's all a frequency polygon is. It smooths everything out into a clean line, which makes it incredibly easy to spot trends or even overlay a few different data sets to compare them.
Okay, so we've organized our clues, we've visualized the whole scene. Now it's time to identify our prime suspect, that one single value that best represents the entire data set. We're on the hunt for the heart of the story, what we call the central value.
This is a really critical moment in our investigation. You've probably heard the word average a million times, but a good data detective knows there isn't just one. Nope, we've got three main suspects: the mean, the median, and the mode. And choosing the right one is absolutely key to telling an accurate story, and not a misleading one.
So here's your detective's cheat sheet for averages. First, the mean. That's the one you usually think of as the average. Add everything up, divide by how many there are. It's great for balanced, symmetrical data. But you have to be careful, because it's really vulnerable to outliers. Like, if a single billionaire walks into a cafe, the average salary in that room suddenly skyrockets. That's where the median comes in handy. It's the true middle value. It's tough. It's resistant to those extreme outliers. That's exactly why you always hear people talk about the median house price, not the mean. And finally, you've got the mode. That one's the easiest of all. It's simply the value that shows up most often. Perfect for finding out what's most popular, like the best-selling color of a t-shirt.
So we've got our toolkit, but why does any of this matter outside of a math class? Well, let's take a look at how these exact detective skills are used to solve real-world mysteries every single day.
I mean, really think about it. A store manager uses a histogram to figure out when the peak shopping hours are so they can schedule enough staff. A doctor might look at the median recovery time to give a patient a realistic timeline. A teacher can look at the distribution of exam scores to see if a lesson really clicked with the students. These are not just abstract ideas, okay? They're the fundamental tools people use to make smarter decisions in pretty much every field imaginable.
So there you have it. You are now officially equipped with the Data Detectives Starter Kit. You know how to take a chaotic mess of clues, bring order to them, create a visual story, and zero in on the central truth. The world is absolutely full of data. So go out there and uncover the stories they've been waiting to tell.